Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a really nifty recital of music for diatonic and chromatic harp. Now, let's just let you know what's on it. Music by Debussy, Enescu, Koechlin, Rohozinski, Roussel, Vierne, and Menotti. A really wonderful collection of pieces. But what is the diatonic and chromatic harp? Okay, here we go. I mean, we talked about this before. I think the harp is one of the most fascinating instruments around. Take a piano. You got a piano, right? It's got all those strings and all those white keys and black keys. Turn it on its side, like this, and get rid of all the black keys. And you have a harp. You have the modern harp. However, if you get rid of all the black keys, you can't play sharps and flats very easily or at all. And so what do? Well, there are 7 notes in the diatonic scale, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C is the octave. So you've got that one. Because it's like a piano, you've got a whole bunch of octaves, like 6 or 7 octaves with all those keys. One for each note. So there are a bunch of C's and a bunch of D's for each octave of range of the instrument, right? But there's 7. So here's what you do. You have 7 pedals, one for each note type, for each pitch. All the C keys hook into pedal number 1. All the D keys hook into pedal number 2. That's what you do. And each pedal has 3 positions. There's the regular C, the C natural, and then you can go down or up or whatever, and it activates a little toggle thingy that lengthens or shortens the string. So the C key can be a C sharp or a C flat. The D key can be a D sharp or a D flat, etc. for all those 7 notes. So you have 21 different positions of your 7 pedals normally. And that allows you to play in different keys by how you set your pedals. But because these pedals change each note, up a half step, down a half step, you have to do some strange things when the writing becomes what they call chromatic, that uses notes outside of a particular scale, because it's going to make it very difficult to play things that don't belong to your regular diatonic, what they call the diatonic scale. So that was an issue. And it makes the harp very tricky to write for. I mean, composers are famous for writing bad harp parts. I mean, even Mozart in his Concerto for Flute and Harp does a couple things that are impossible on a harp. And he knew that, though, probably because he hated the harp and he was trying to drive the harpist crazy. And Mozart's harp had even fewer pedals than the modern harp. I mean, it was much more limited in what it could do. In the modern harp, I mean, the end of Wagner's Das Rheingold for 6 harps. I mean, those harps they're famously unplayable. Janáček didn't care what the harp could or couldn't do. If you look at the critical editions of his opera scores, there's always a little footnote that says, Janáček's harp parts are unplayable. Just do what you can do. Figure it out. That's all you can do. So it really is quite tricky to write for this diatonic harp. It forces you to do strange things with the pedals. And in modern music, contemporary music, it's very, very, very difficult and tricky to write for the harp. So around the turn of the 20th century, a harp manufacturer invented the chromatic harp, which is essentially your piano strings with the black keys put back. So you have these half steps. You have ways to get around the harp, which is much, much clearer and much more similar to what we're used to. The problem, of course, is that you have more strings, and it's trickier to play them than the regular diatonic harp. But that's okay. The chromatic harp never caught on. People were already married to the existing configuration and were used to it and were happy with it. And it's perfectly fine for most music anyway. And the Chromatic Harp Company wanted Debussy, famous composers, to write music for the chromatic harp to show it off. And so Debussy wrote his Danse sacrée et profane for the chromatic harp, and the diatonic harp people, I think it was Erard, hired Ravel to write his introduction and allegro. And they, sort of took sides with all these composers, and they wrote this repertoire for both harps. And Francette Bartholomée, harpiste extraordinaire, has put together this wonderful recital of music by various composers for both types of harp. And that's all you need to know, because if you're interested in the harp, you're going to want to hear it. It begins with the Debussy Dans Sacré Profane played on the chromatic harp. Now, these pieces are perfectly playable on the normal harp, and they usually are. This is the least satisfactory performance on the disc, to be honest. The Profane, the second dance, is really rather droopy. And it needs, and the harp tone itself is somewhat weak. It's a chromatic harp. So it's the original thing that Debussy wrote it for. It just doesn't seem to have the same amount of oomph that the diatonic harp does. But whether that's the playing or the instrument, I don't know. Then you get the Enescu Allegro de Concert for chromatic harp, a lovely little 5-minute piece. Charles Koechlin's Nocturne for chromatic harp. It's a big work, 9 and some odd minutes long for solo harp. And you can tell right from the beginning with its kind of spooky and evocative opening that he's writing for the chromatic harp. It's quite marvelous. Then there's this guy, Leon Rohozinski, who lived from 1886 to 1938. He wrote a Suite Brève. It's about 5 or 6 movements. 6 movements, actually, I think. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. 6 movements and 18 minutes long. It's actually a pretty substantial work for flute, viola, and harp. A diatonic harp, the same harp that Debussy wrote his final sonata for, flute, viola, and harp. It's a wonderful combination, and it's a beautiful work. Then we've got Roussel's Impromptu for diatonic harp, which is another big work, well, 6.5 minutes. Vierne's Rhapsody for diatonic harp, serious work, 10 minutes long, 9.5 minutes here. And last but not least, Menotti's Cantilena e Scherzo. It's 2 movements. Well, it's 1 movement, but two pieces connected for diatonic harp and string quartet. And that's about 12 minutes. So this is serious stuff. It's 72 minutes of harp music all told. 4 works for diatonic harp, and 3 for chromatic harp. And except for that initial Debussy, I think it's all beautifully played, beautifully recorded. I mean, the Debussy's not bad. It's just, it's done so many times. There are more lively versions. And I really, really enjoyed this. So it's Francette Bartholomée, Trio Médicis, and the Quatuor Kleve, all on Cyprès. And, what a lovely, lovely disc this is. If you're a harp junkie like I am, you're going to want to hear this. It's a bit of history and some wonderful music besides. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.